Assalamualaikum. Welcome to this video tutorial on ASP.NET 4.5 for students of King Faisal University and for others who want to learn ASP.NET. This is part 16 in the series entitled Input Validation in ASP.NET 4.5 using C#. Users are prone to mistakes in entering values like leaving a required field blank or entering an alphanumeric text to a field that you expect only for a numeric value. Validation control solve these problems, and these are the required field validator, the range validator, the compare validator, the regular expression validator, and the custom validator. ASP.NET 4.5 has made some changes in the way validation is processed by using unobtrusive validation using jQuery. This is to reduce the scripts on the page. There are three ways to proceed with this tutorial. The first two, on the web form and in the web config file, disables this unobtrusive validation. The third one is to register jQuery using global ASAX file, which actually fools the compiler to thinking that we have this JavaScript already installed in the system. Nevertheless, we will use the third one. For activity number 16, we will create an ASP.NET website and place it in C ASP Activity 16. Then we will create a web form called default that has text box and button objects. Then we will include a required field validator too. Let's create our website, file a new website. Let's call it Activity 16. We'll first create the global ASAX file, so we'll add a new item. Then look for the global application class there and then click add. Then inside the application start, we will write this code script manager there. That script resource mapping, correct. That add definition, correct. And then we'll put this jQuery, comma, new script resource definition, correct. We'll open and close. Then here inside we will put the path. So this is a false path. We actually don't have this file. Let's say inside the folder scripts. Then this jQuery, which we're going to discuss in our later tutorials. 1.9.1 is the latest version as of now, as of the time of this recording. Okay, and then we have to close it and a semicolon. We can now create our default web form, add a new item, web form default, add. Let's go to design, go to table, insert the table. Let's make it 3 rows and 3 columns. Okay, let's type username. And then across it, we will place a text box there. And across it, we will put a required field validator. The required field validator assures that the text box or the control has this value. So what are we going to change here? The control to validate should be text box 1. Let's change the font color to red so that we can see the message better. And let's change the text to please enter username. Okay, and in the last row, we will add a button and we'll change this text to submit. Now, basically, all buttons has this property called causes a validation, which if false, all validation controls are ignored. So the default is true. So that means all validations will be implemented. Okay, so let's try it out. Let's control F5. If we don't enter anything, we'll submit it. You have to please enter username. If we entered something like Abdullah, we click submit. It worked. Let's continue with our activity by revising our default web form and including 2 more text boxes for password and retype password. Then we will include a required field validator for vote and compare validator for retype password. And let's add 2 rows. Right click, insert rows above. Another one, right click, insert rows above. Okay, for the first is password and the next is the retype password. So we'll need text boxes for both. There. That's text box 2 and text box 3. We will need required field validator for both. So this required field validator is for text box 2. Again, we'll change the for color to red and the text to please enter password. Then another required field validator for retype password. The control to validate is text box 3. The for color is also red. And our text is please retype password. Okay. We will need another validator here, the compare validator. So for the compare validator, we have two controls to set. The first one is to validate. We'll validate text box 3. And the second one is the control we are going to compare text box 3 with, and that is text box 2. Then we'll change again for color to red. And our text, so if there's no match, passwords don't match. Before we execute this one, I want you to look at this property called display. The value right now is static. So what does that mean? Let's go to our browser, Control F5. If we're not going to enter anything, notice that we have these three errors. Let's type something for password and different in retype password. Let's submit. Notice that there is a space here before the comment of passwords don't match for the compare validator. So the space has been provided. It's actually reserved for the required field validator. Now, how are we going to change it? Through this display, the one we showed to you a while ago. If we're going to make it dynamic, and so is this one, going to make it dynamic. If we look at it again in the browser, and we type a password that is different, passwords don't match. So there's no more space reserved for the required field validator. To continue with our activity, we will revise again our default web form by including two more text boxes for email and age. Then we will include a regular expression validator for email and range validator for age from 0 to 120 inputs. Then for all text boxes, we will cut the values of their text properties and paste them in error message. Then we will replace their text property with star. Then we will place a validation summary below the button. Okay, we'll add another set of rows. Insert rows above. Let's start with the email, and below it is the age. So we need another set of text boxes here and here. So for email, we will be needing this regular expression validator. So the control to validate is text box 4, and in our error message, we'll make it this is not a valid email address. Then we'll still make the for color red, but this time in our text we will just put star or asterisk. The same thing for age, we need here the range validator. So the control to validate is text box 5. For the error message, say out of range, and the for color will make it also red, and the text is simply a star or asterisk. So we will do the same things with our other validator controls. Let's start with the username. The text will cut and change it to star, and we will put that in our error message, control B or paste. The same thing with the password. So let's look at the text, control X, star R asterisk, then error message, Control V or paste. The same thing for the type password. Let's look for the text, Control X, change it to star, and go to error message, select, paste, and the last one, passwords don't match, Control X, change it to star, and for the error message, paste, and then below it, we'll put a validation summary. Okay. I just remembered that we forgot to set some other properties for the required expression validator and the range validator. So let's start with the required regular expression validator. Below here in the properties window, there is this validation expression. You have to select the ellipsis or the triple dots and then look for the internet email address. This is the format for that. And also for the age, for the range validator, we forgot to set this to minimum value, which according to the problem is 0, and the maximum value, which is 120. Okay, so let's save it and let's look at it in the browser. Now, if we submit now, 3 errors. If we put an email like Ali, this is not a valid email address. So if we put at yahoo.com, okay, no more error. And for the age, let's make it 121. That is out of range. If we make it 120, okay, no more error. Well, congratulations. We just finished doing some validation exercises for ASP.NET. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Masalama.